The 60s were fascinated by technology. All kinds of breakthroughs were seen as just around the corner. Miniature atomic power plants were going to be in every home. Huge airplanes would be like flying club rooms. Every phone would have a television attached to it. The pages of popular science were filled with wonderful ideas, all drawn in primary colors and pastels like comic books. Transportation, of course, was at the head of the list. Anti-gravity transportation modules, rocket sleds, helicopters and small airplanes that landed retracted their wings and drove off like automobiles. It is not hard to see how creative organizations like Ghia and its designers got caught up in the excitement. Today's cars were the ones they'd put on paper 2 or 3 years ago, and they had already put the cars of 3 years hence on paper. Built models, wind tunnel tested them, built full-size prototypes and been paid. 10 or 15 years in the future wasn't really that much different. So they designed cars with bubbles, cars with fins, cars with jet pods, two-wheel cars balanced by gyroscopes. Sometimes they even designed cars that looked like they could fly but actually had wheels and contemplated even having engines. In 1959, Tom Jarda was working at Ghia and received the call to build Selene, a wild concept with the driver in front of the front wheels preceded into traffic by a long snout. Selene got plenty of press and it eventually caught the eye of some commissar in Moscow who seized upon it as the model for a proposed Russian taxicab. Incredibly, a couple of years later Virgil Exner, working independently with his father who had left Chrysler after forming strong ties with Ghia, designed the sequel to Selene, which also was built at Ghia. That project was the Ghia Selene 2 concept on offer here. If there ever was a concept that communicated a space theme, it is the Ghia Selene 2 concept. The Ghia Selene 2 concept's driver sits in front in a centrally located minimalist bucket seat under a canopy. Steering is by an aircraft-style yoke. The 2 passengers sit behind the driver, also in the then fashionable minimalist buckets but facing back looking at a television screen. The doors have transparent windows that extend from the belt line to the center of the roof. The floor is raised. Behind the passenger compartment, which ends well in front of the rear wheels, a tapering tail with central fin, which is shaped remarkably like a 1959 Plymouth's, even to the chrome trim along its trailing edge, extends to the rear bumper over cutaway wheel wells. Like its predecessor, the Ghia Selene 2 concept attracted immense publicity, as well it should at the beginning of the 60s. However, it never ran and has remained in Ghia's small collection in Turin ever since. In the 1950s and 60s, the popular term for these wild designs was dream cars rather than the more common term today of concept models. The Ghia Selene 2 concept's metal body is fabricated with a skill for which Ghia is known, with good panel fits and even gaps. The suspension does not appear to work and there is no engine or any drivetrain components. Ghia Selene 2 is nothing less than a cultural artifact of the beginning of the 1960s, when much of the world's population thought technology could accomplish anything. The intervening couple of decades have demonstrated that is not the case, but the Ghia Selene 2 concept is an opportunity to recapture that optimism, enthusiasm and confidence while preserving an important and singular example of futuristic design.